A lot of times in the fantasy spectrum, we think about intrigue as something that only affects political sides of things. But what about intrigue as it relates to merchants? Hello, welcome. My name is Pete. This is the Ponderings of Pete, which happens to be the YouTube channel that I run about books that are fantasy, that are sci-fi, but mostly fantasy. If you are a first-time visitor, thank you so much. I appreciate you checking me out. There's the like button, the comment button, subscribe button, all that jazz. Use it if you would so kindly, please. It's available for you. If you are returning for a second or third or 27th time, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All your guys' support, all your guys' engagement and talking and all that jazz. I appreciate it. Thank you. And if any of you feel so inclined and wants to drop comments down below and be like, oh, I like this book, or this sounds interesting, or anything, comments regarding this book, this author, or anything like that, feel free to do so. I really appreciate just, talking about books, since that's really what this channel is about. Without further ado, let's actually talk about what I'm going to talk about, and then talk about it. This will be a spoiler-free review, so feel free to look at this, check the link down below to buy the book if you so wish. The Merchant Prince by Johann Fair. This is the first book that I've read so far for SPFBO 8, or SPFBO as it's colloquially called. I recently finished this, put my thoughts together, and now I am giving it all to you. This one initially caught my eye of the stack of books that we were asked to look at because it just looked different. It looked, not your typical crazy action-packed battle fantasy, yeah, which interested me. So I picked it up, and I did very much so enjoy the time that I had reading it. This book, of course, is about a merchant prince, our Augustus, who is the third son of the Castellian family. He is the heir to, not necessarily the family fortune, but the heir to the head of family position. And at the beginning of this book, he's on an expedition. And he gets married. And he comes home with that newlywed wife, Marielle. And the two of them, because it really is a book about the two of them, have to navigate the craziness that is the city of Venetia, or really the family of the Castellians, because things have happened while Augustus was away getting married and on an expedition. So they have to navigate those. And Marielle, she is definitely the standout character, the standout POV, because it really switches between their two POVs. Augustus can be a little cold at times because he's a very cool and calculating character, whereas Marielle is a little bit out of her depth and just trying to figure out how all these pieces work and figuring out the giant game of chess, or Strixus, that is this family. So she is definitely the easiest to sympathize with. Venetia as a city itself, vibrantly painted in its own way through the descriptions of the characters. I do wish there had been a little bit more exploring of it. I think that would have been really fun. But the author definitely kept in what was needed with this book and didn't have a lot of fluff area. Name notwithstanding, it does not seem to be based off the city of Venice, even though there is a lot of heavy water motifs in the major religion that is represented in this book. It is a port city that is surrounded by mountains, and to my knowledge, Venice is not surrounded by mountains. And this city definitely relies on merchants as its lifeblood, because they don't have a way to grow enough food for their city. How the city came to be founded, I don't know, but it's interesting. The politicking and maneuvering and intrigue was a nice change of pace from more typical fantasy, and there was an interesting parallel throughout the book with a fantasy game that the author seems to have made up that's kind of like a cross between chess and Othello. That was really cool. And then the other interesting thing that I thought was cool with the world building was there was a system of magistrates. I don't know how historically based this was, but the magistrates essentially held court in random places in the city where citizens could air their grievances, and the magistrates would give rulings, and sometimes the rulings were swayed by crowd opinion as well, which was interesting, makes me nervous, but interesting. And it was cool to see how that kind of interplayed with the plot at 1 or 2 points. I had a few kind of comments that might be relevant if you're interested in reading this book. The mystery side of the intrigue, the mystery feel of the intrigue, could have been stronger, in my opinion. And one of the reasons this is because the characters throughout the book tended to over-explain a lot of things, especially like Augustus to Marielle, because Marielle was our audience proxy. So there tended to be a lot of people just throwing a lot of information at Marielle because she didn't know it. And thus, by proxy, throwing the audience a lot of information. So it wasn't necessary that there was like long descriptions of things, just things were explained too much, and I felt like there could have been done more to trust the audience to understand the implications of what was happening, or just the implications of showing them something. So that was just something. I also think character voice was a little weak. The dialogue between characters wasn't always easily differentiable, so I couldn't always tell the difference between different people speaking, especially if there weren't any dialogue tags. So that was just something that confused me 1 or 2 times, but that was pretty much it. So this last thing, I've kind of sat on this for a little bit because I don't really know how to approach it. This is slightly spoilery, but I'm still going to try to keep it pretty vague. The villain in the last few pages of the book is essentially revealed to, at his core, be a very harmful stereotype of a certain type of people. It is a stereotype that shouldn't really be perpetuated at all in today's society because it hurts people. And this isn't necessarily the very specific video to go into that. I'd have to do a lot more research and think about it a lot more. But that really kind of left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth with this book. In the end, outside of that, I did enjoy the book, the wonderful world, and for a debut book, the author did well. Just some more care with choosing villain attributes would be warranted. Let me know what you thought of this if you've read it or you're looking into reading it. And thank you so much for watching. I'll have a link down below, of course, to purchase the book if you want. Probably through Amazon. I think that's usually the only way. But and have a great rest of your day, and make sure to get some rest because that is important. Bye.